My mom bragged online about sacrificing everything for my degree, but she just took my refund checks and called it rent, while my brother said I was still ugly. Then the dean called about an opening that changed everything. I was still standing outside the University of Michigan Events Center in Ann Arbor, holding my diploma like it was the only solid thing left in my life, when my phone buzzed nonstop. At first, I thought people were texting me congratulations. Instead, it was screenshots. My mother had posted a long Facebook status, one of those dramatic rants she always wrote when she wanted attention. I sacrificed everything for her, all those years of working 2 jobs so she could walk across that stage today. I'm the reason she made it. I swear I felt my stomach twist the same way it used to when she'd yell at me for breathing too loud. Sacrificed everything. She never bought a single textbook. She never covered a single rent payment. She took every refund check the school sent me for living expenses and called it fair payment for raising me. I worked 2 part-time jobs and still went to class. I ate canned soup for dinner most nights. She never sacrificed. She collected. Then came the text from my older brother, the one who always acted like I was some unwanted guest in the family. Congrats, I guess. Too bad you're still ugly, lol. That was it, the whole family. That was all they had to say. Graduation day, and I was alone, no cheering section, no flowers, no dumb handmade sign, nothing. I watched other students run into their families' arms, crying, laughing, hugging so tight they almost lifted each other off the ground. I took my own selfie because no one else was there to point the camera. I told myself I shouldn't care. I told myself I'd expected this, but it still stung, deep and sharp, like someone twisting something inside my chest. I was wiping sweat from my face, trying not to cry on my makeup, when an unfamiliar number called. I almost ignored it, thinking it was a spammer. But something made me answer, maybe instinct, maybe desperation, maybe just not wanting to stand there like a loser with no one to talk to. "Hello," I said, trying to sound normal. "Is this?" the voice asked, calm, professional. "Yes, this is me. This is Dean Patterson. I just stepped out of the ceremony. I noticed something unusual in your student file." My heart dropped. Is everything okay?" "Oh, everything is perfectly fine," he said. "More than fine, actually. Something's opened up. A very competitive opening, and I think you should hear about it in person." An opening? For what? A scholarship, a job, a fellowship? I didn't know. I didn't even care what it was. Any good news felt unreal after the mess my day had become. "Can you come to my office?" he asked. "Right now, if possible." I looked at myself in the reflection of the glass door. My cap was crooked. My eyes were glossy. My hands were still shaking from anger and humiliation, but I nodded even though he couldn't see me. "Yes, I can come." "Good," he said. "This concerns your mother as well, though not in the way you might expect." I froze. Ice ran down my spine. "My mother, why? What does she have to do with?" "We'll talk when you get here," he said. "And trust me, you'll want to hear this." The call ended. I stood there staring at my phone, diploma clutched against my chest, realizing something bigger, something strange was happening. And whatever it was, it had something to do with the one person I least wanted involved. I walked across the campus toward the administration building, and with every step, all the old memories I tried so hard to bury started pushing up again. Maybe it was the dean mentioning my mother. Maybe it was the Facebook post. Maybe it was just the fact that on the biggest day of my life, I was walking alone. But it all came back. Growing up in Flint, Michigan, my mother acted like having kids was some kind of lifelong punishment someone forced on her. She loved attention, not responsibility. And the second she realized she could turn my achievements into something she could brag about, she did, but only when it made her look good. If it didn't benefit her, she didn't care. She used to tell me, "School isn't real work. When I was your age, I was already supporting myself." Meanwhile, she took every refund check I got from financial aid. She'd hold out her hand and say, "Give it here. You live under my roof, you pay rent." But the roof leaked, the heat barely worked, and the fridge was usually empty unless I stocked it myself. My brother wasn't any better. He took after her, loud, mean, and always needing someone to push down so he could feel taller. He'd call me weird, useless, ugly, anytime I showed the smallest sign of pride. If I got an A, he'd say it didn't matter because nobody cares if a nerd gets good grades. Some nights I'd study in the car because it was the only quiet place I had. I remember shivering with a blanket over my legs in the dead of winter, highlighting chapters by the light of the street lamps. I kept telling myself it would be worth it. One day, I'd graduate and everything would change. I'd be free. When I finally got into the University of Michigan, it felt like escaping a burning house. I moved into student housing as fast as I could, picked up whatever campus jobs I could find, and tried to build my own life. But my mother still found ways to reach in and grab what she wanted. If she wasn't taking my refund checks, she was calling me to complain about how I abandoned her. "You think you're better than us now," she'd say. "You act like you're some fancy college girl. You owe me everything." I stopped answering her calls. That just made her turn to Facebook, posting vague statuses about ungrateful children and being used. People would comment things like, "You're such a strong mom and your daughter should appreciate you." She fed on that attention. But the worst part? The part I never told anyone. She once threatened to call the school and tell them I was committing financial aid fraud if I didn't send her more money. She didn't even know how financial aid worked. She just wanted something to hold over me. I lived every semester waiting for the other shoe to drop. So when the dean said the words, "This concerns your mother," all those old fears started clawing up my throat again. What did she do now? Did she call the school after all? Did she try to sabotage something? I reached the administration building and put my hand on the door handle. My pulse was pounding so hard it felt like I could hear it. Whatever was waiting for me inside, it had the power to change everything. And I had no idea whether it was going to save me or break me. The dean's office was on the third floor, tucked behind a glass wall that made everything inside look sharper and colder than real life. I could see him through the glass as I walked up, tall gray suit, wire-rimmed glasses, the kind of posture that said he'd been in academia forever. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't frowning either. He was just watching me. I tapped the door frame. "Come in," he said, already gesturing to the chair across from him. I sat down, diploma still in my lap like some kind of emotional shield. He folded his hands, studying me in a way that made me want to hold my breath. "I'll get straight to the point," he said. "We had an unexpected withdrawal from a highly selective postgraduate research placement. It's paid, full-time, and comes with housing. It was intended for a different student, but your final project, the one on socioeconomic barriers in education, impressed the research board." My heart jumped. "A research placement?" "Yes, it's a competitive spot. Very. Most students apply a year in advance." I didn't know what to say. I'd been preparing myself for another year of part-time jobs, cheap apartments, and eating whatever was on sale at Major. A paid placement, housing included, that was life-changing. But then he slid a folder toward me. "And while reviewing your application materials," he said, "we came across something concerning." My throat tightened. "Concerning how?" He tapped the folder. "This." I opened it slowly, expecting maybe a missing form or a typo. Instead, I found something that made my stomach drop. A letter, printed, signed, dated, a letter from my mother. I read the first line and felt my face grow hot. "I'm writing to express concern that my daughter may not be accurately reporting her living expenses to the university. There may be misuse of funds." It was worse than a threat. She actually did it. She actually sent it. I kept reading. "Given her history of dishonesty toward me and her tendency to take advantage of others, I urge the financial office to review her file for inconsistencies." Dishonesty. Take advantage me? I almost laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that died before it left my throat. "We conducted a standard review," the dean said, watching my reaction. "We found no issues with your file. Everything checked out. In fact, your financial records were almost painfully clean." I swallowed hard. "So, why show me this?" He leaned back. "Because this letter arrived at the exact time the original candidate withdrew. And because, in my experience, when a parent sends a letter like this, there's something deeper going on." I felt humiliated, angry, exposed. "She's always been like this," I muttered. "She takes my money and then accuses me of stealing from her." He nodded slowly, as if that wasn't surprising at all. Then he said, "There's something else." He reached into his drawer and pulled out another envelope, thicker, sealed, cream-colored, with the university's stamp on it. "This was addressed to your mother," he said. "But it concerns you." "Why would anything from the university be sent to her?" I asked. "That," he said, "is exactly the question." I stared at the envelope. For a second, I thought I felt the room tilt. My mother shouldn't have anything to do with my academic records. She shouldn't be receiving letters about me. She shouldn't even be listed anywhere. "Open it," the dean said. "It explains quite a lot." My fingers shook as I slid the envelope open. I read the first sentence. And everything, absolutely everything, changed. The letter wasn't long, maybe 5 sentences total. But every single one of them felt like a punch straight to the ribs. The first line read, "We are contacting you as the listed financial guardian and co-signer on your daughter's university accounts." I stopped breathing. Co-signer. Financial guardian? She was neither. She'd never signed a single form. She never even came to campus except once, when she wanted to know why her refund check hadn't hit yet. I kept reading. Regarding discrepancies between reported income and the tax information on file. My vision blurred for a second. Reported income? Tax information? Whose? I flipped to the next page, an attached document with my name and social security number on it. But the income listed wasn't mine. It was my mother's. Except it wasn't her income from actual jobs. It was inflated, way higher. Like someone had claimed thousands more than she'd ever made. The dean watched my face carefully. "You understand the implications," he said quietly. "No," I whispered. I don't understand any of this. How is she even connected to my account?" He pressed his lips together, not judgmental, just steady. "She forged your signature on your FAFSA the first year you applied. She added herself as your co-signer. I'm guessing she also used your social security number to file on your behalf. That's why the system mailed her the notices." My stomach dropped so hard I actually grabbed the edge of the chair, forged my signature, filed taxes under my name, added herself as my financial guardian. I felt sick. "That's identity fraud," I said, my throat tight. "Isn't it?" "Yes," he said, "and tax fraud. Potentially both federal." I sat there shaking, the letter trembling in my hand. The dean leaned forward. "You worked hard, you kept clean records, you've done everything right. But this," he tapped the envelope, "this is serious. And it's not your fault. I want that to be very clear." I wiped my face with the sleeve of my gown. I didn't even notice I was crying until my skin felt cold. "Why would she do this?" I whispered. He hesitated, a long, measured pause. "We don't know yet, but the financial office flagged this because something else happened this morning." I looked up. "What happened?" He opened his drawer again and pulled out a printed email. "This," he said, "was sent by your mother at 6:13 a.m. I took it." The email's subject line was, "Urgent request to withdraw student from housing and BNEFITS." My whole chest went numb. She tried to pull me out. On graduation day, hours before the ceremony. She tried to remove my housing, my placement, my financial support, everything. In the email she wrote, "As her legal guardian and co-signer, I am requesting immediate termination of her benefits. She is moving back home today." Moving back home. Like she owned me. Like I wasn't 22 years old with my own life. Like she could just snap her fingers and drag me back to Flint like a piece of furniture. I stared at the page until the text doubled. "She really thought she could control you," the dean said quietly. "Even now," I swallowed hard. "What happens now?" He took a deep breath. "That depends," he said. "Because there's one more thing, the thing I needed to talk to you about in person." My pulse kicked up again. "What thing?" He looked me dead in the eyes. "Your mother wasn't acting alone." I froze. "What do you mean, not alone?" He nodded slowly, almost grimly. "There's another name on the documents, someone who signed with her, someone close to you." My mouth went dry. "Who?" He turned the folder toward me. I stared at the signature beneath hers. And my whole world split open. It was my brother. When I saw my brother's signature under hers, sloppy, looping, the same way he signed checks back when he used to scam people on Marketplace, something inside me went cold in a way I'd never felt before. All the noise in my head went silent, like someone hit a mute button on the world. My mother was one thing. She'd always been greedy, manipulative, attention-hungry. I expected her to pull something eventually. But my brother. He didn't even pretend to care about me. He barely talked to me unless he wanted to borrow money or insult me. So why would he sign legal documents tying himself to my financial records? The dean waited, giving me space to process. "Is there any chance," he said gently, "that your brother thought he was helping?" I looked up at him with a small, humorless laugh. "No, he'd never help me." He only helps himself. The dean nodded once, like that confirmed what he already suspected. Then we need to talk about next steps, he said, because the university can't ignore identity fraud. And neither should you. I took a slow breath. What options do I have? He slid a new folder toward me, thicker than the others. These are the forms we would normally provide to a student in a situation like this. You can initiate a formal fraud report, which will trigger both a university investigation and a federal review. But understand, this is serious. It could result in charges. Charges, federal charges, against my mother, against my brother. I thought about the screaming matches, the threats, the years of being told I was worthless. I thought about every refund check she took, every textbook I couldn't afford, every shift I worked until my feet hurt so badly I couldn't sleep. And I thought about her email this morning, trying to rip away the life I built for myself. She didn't care if she ruined me. She didn't think she ever could. She'd been so used to having control that she assumed she always would. My hands went still. I'm not protecting them, I said softly. Not this time. The dean didn't smile, but he looked relieved. There's something else you should know, he said. We already declined your mother's withdrawal request, and we've secured your placement. But if you want full protection going into this next stage, I suggest you take the housing unit included with the program. I blinked. Housing unit, he nodded. It's off-campus, secure access. Only program fellows live there. A safe place. Away from them, away from the chaos, away from the people who thought they owned me. For the first time that day, I felt something warm in my chest, not happiness, but the first hint of safety. I'll take it, I said. Good, he replied. We'll start the paperwork. But the longer I sat there, the more something else began to form in the back of my mind, slow, deliberate, electric. I didn't just want protection. I wanted them to feel what I felt. I wanted them to lose what they tried to steal. I wanted them to understand they picked the wrong person to screw over. When I left the dean's office, the Michigan air hit me sharp and cool. My gown swayed around my legs. My diploma was tucked under my arm. I wasn't shaking anymore. I walked straight back to my old student apartment, packed everything I owned in under an hour, and texted the only person I trusted, my friend Mariah, asking if I could crash on her couch for the night. She said yes immediately. But before I left, I sat on the floor and opened the fraud packet again. I made a list, every forged form, every stolen refund check, every threat, every email, every receipt, every message, every lie. By the time I was done, my hands weren't cold anymore. They were steady. If my mother and brother wanted to play with my future, I was about to play with theirs. I spent the night on Mariah's couch, the fraud packet open on the coffee table, my phone turned face down so I wouldn't have to see the growing list of missed calls from my mother. I didn't answer a single one. I didn't plan to. I was done explaining, done trying to make her understand basic decency. But around midnight, my phone buzzed again, not with her number, but a notification from my bank. New account link request pending approval. My blood ran cold. Someone was trying to connect a new device to my checking account. I opened the notification and saw the location. Flint, Michigan, my mother's town, my brother's town. My town, technically, but not anymore. I hit deny immediately, hands shaking, and then went into my security settings to see what else had been touched. Another alert popped up. Password reset attempt blocked. Time. 11:43 p.m. Location. Same place. They were trying to get into my account. Again, tonight. The same night I found out everything. That's when the truth clicked into place so fast it made my head spin. This wasn't random. This wasn't impulse. This wasn't some desperate last-minute move. This was a pattern, a long-term plan, careful, coordinated, calculated. And then the twist, the one I never saw coming, hit me hard. Someone had already succeeded. Not tonight, not last week, not recently, earlier. I scrolled down further into my settings and that's when I saw it. My recovery email, the one I used for financial accounts, had been changed 2 months ago. 2 months ago. I never noticed. I never got a notification. I never checked because I never imagined anyone would target me that way. The recovery email listed was one I didn't recognize at first, a string of random numbers. But then the last part clicked, at yahoo.com. My mother still used Yahoo. My brother did too. He never updated anything ever. But the numbers, that was the part that made my entire body go cold. They were familiar. I recognized them. They were the last 4 digits of my social security number. The one my mother used to file her fake taxes, to forge my FAFSA, to add herself as my guardian. She made a burner email using my SSN and linked it to my financial accounts months before graduation. She didn't just try to take my refund checks. She was trying to take everything. I sat back, staring at the screen like it was a bomb. Mariah came out of her room, eyes half asleep. "You okay?" she asked softly. I turned the phone toward her. "Look." Her face hardened instantly. "Oh hell no, that's identity theft on top of identity theft." I nodded, still feeling numb. She planned this, before graduation, before today. She wasn't just trying to ruin my housing or my placement, she was setting up access to my accounts. Long term. Mariah sat down beside me, voice low. "You know what this means, right?" I did. I didn't want to admit it, but I knew. She wasn't trying to control me because she loved me. She wasn't trying to bring me home. She wasn't even trying to punish me. She was trying to tie herself to my identity so tightly that my life, my credit, my taxes, my future, would feed hers. My mother wasn't panicking. She was preparing. My brother wasn't helping her out of loyalty. He was investing. This wasn't emotional abuse anymore. This was a long-term financial plan built on my name, and they weren't done. They weren't even close to done. Mariah looked at me with a kind of fierce protectiveness I'd never seen from anyone in my family. "So," she said, "what are you gonna do?" My answer came out quiet, controlled, and colder than I'd ever heard my own voice sound. "Everything." The next morning, I rode the bus across Ann Arbor to the new housing unit the university assigned me. It was quiet, clean, gated, nothing like the cramped student apartment I'd been living in. But even with the safety of it, even with the fraud paperwork in my bag and a plan forming in my head, something felt unfinished. I needed to understand why. Not emotionally, I'd given up on that years ago. I needed to understand the logic, the calculation. The reason my mother and brother had gone so far as to sign legal documents, alter my financial records, build burner emails, and try to access my accounts. When I got inside my new room, I pulled up everything I had access to: credit reports, tax transcripts, old emails I'd ignored, spam folders. If they'd been messing with my identity for months, there would be a trail. There was. And it was worse than I imagined. It started with something small, a pre-approved credit offer addressed to me but sent to my mother's house. I thought it was junk mail at the time. Then a notification buried in my spam about a recent inquiry from a loan company. Then a message from an old community bank I'd never used, saying they couldn't complete my request without further ID confirmation. At first, I thought these were coincidences. But then I found the thing that tied everything together, one single document my mother never meant for me to see. It was an email thread. My mother had forwarded it to herself months ago, and my recovery inbox still stored a ghost copy. Subject: projected annual income for combined household filing, combined household. Combined household filing. I felt my pulse slam through my ears. She wasn't just using my SSN to fake income. She wasn't just claiming to be my guarantor. She wasn't just trying to control my account access. She was preparing to file taxes as if we lived together. As if she supported me financially. As if my education, my credits, my grants, and my awards were part of her household earnings. It got worse. Scrolling down, the real message hit me like a truck. My brother had sent her a breakdown, a full spreadsheet, with projected returns they could get if they both listed themselves as my financial dependents, based on me earning more after graduation. They were planning to attach themselves to my future income, to siphon off my tax refunds, to connect their debts to my credit history, to use my academic achievements to access grants and write-offs meant for actual parents who supported their children. My mother wasn't doing this because she wanted control. She was doing it because she believed my life belonged to her financially, and she believed it so strongly she wrote it down. There was a note at the bottom of the document, written by my mother, her voice right there in the words. She wouldn't be anything without me. She owes me her career. If she starts making real money, I'm not letting her keep it all for herself. Not letting me, not letting. Like my life was property she owned. Like I was an investment she was finally ready to cash out. And my brother, under her note was his reply, "She won't fight it, she never fights back." Just push it through before graduation. That line, more than the forged signatures, more than the emails, more than the attempted account access, set something dark and sharp inside me. They weren't sorry. They weren't confused. They weren't desperate. They were confident. They were sure of me. They were sure I would fold. They thought I'd stay silent forever. And that belief, that cold, entitled belief, was the reason they did all of it. I closed the laptop slowly. This wasn't a mistake. This was a plan, and they were about to learn exactly how wrong they were about me. I spent the next 3 days gathering everything. Every email, every forged document, every bank alert, every fake recovery account, every spreadsheet, every message that showed exactly what they planned to do with my life. By the time I was done, the folder on my desktop looked like a crime scene. Because it was. I didn't call them. I didn't warn them. I didn't ask why. I already knew the why: greed wrapped in entitlement, sharpened by years of treating me like a resource instead of a person. Instead, I walked into the university's legal office with my laptop, my folders, and a calmness that didn't feel human. The attorney assigned to my case, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Harris, flipped through the documents with raised eyebrows. "This is extensive," she said. "Yeah," I answered. "They've been at it for months. And you're ready to pursue this formally?" "Yes." No hesitation, no fear. She nodded and began outlining everything we could file. Identity theft report, federal tax, fraud alert, FAFSA, fraud documentation, financial impersonation, claim petition for removal of unauthorized cosigner, cease and desist, order protection of academic records, credit freeze request. We spent 4 hours going through every form. When it was done, she looked at me and said something no one in my family had ever said. "You did the right thing. You're protecting yourself." The reports went out that day. The IRS fraud alert hit first. Then the university's internal investigation opened. Then the financial aid office locked my account to all outside access. Then a fraud investigator from the state reached out to me. It happened fast, faster than I expected. And my mother, my brother, they didn't find out from me. They found out when investigators showed up at their door. My phone exploded with calls, 27 missed calls from my mother, 11 from my brother, 9 from random relatives who only reach out when there's drama. I didn't answer a single one, but I did answer the voicemail my mother left, if only because her voice didn't even sound sad. It sounded offended. "How dare you involve the government? I am your mother. This is family business. You're ruining our lives over nothing." Over nothing. Stealing my identity, trying to drain my future income, forging my signature, nothing. By the time the second investigator reached out, it was official. The IRS and state tax agency were both pursuing the fraud case. The university banned both of them from contacting any campus office, and the housing program fast-tracked my placement into a long-term secure unit. My credit was unfrozen, my recovery email restored, my account secured. I was free. The last blow landed 2 weeks later. The fake tax filings my mother made, they triggered a full audit of her past 5 years. My brother's cosigner paperwork, it implicated him in the forged FAFSA. They weren't just in trouble, they were drowning in it. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty for not helping them. I didn't feel guilty for protecting myself. I didn't feel guilty for letting them face consequences they created with their own hands. I felt steady, like I'd finally stepped out of a storm I'd been raised inside. Graduation wasn't the end. It was the start of a life that was actually mine. And the kicker, the next week the dean emailed me, "Welcome to the program. You were always the right choice." Funny how things turn out when you stop letting other people write your story.